my name is Lakin and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the Sundown Motel by Simone St. James and just having a spoiler-free talk about this book, even though I want to talk spoilers, but I just feel like you need to read this book. Just knowing what happens isn't enough. It won't satisfy you, I promise. So just go read this book. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into why I think you should read this book. So, obviously, if I'm already recommending it, I gave it 5 stars. That's probably not a surprise. This is probably one of my favorite thrillers I've read this whole year. It's not my all-time favorite. That spot is held for The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutcherson, but I think this is pretty up there. Yeah, I definitely, this book has one of my favorite things in thrillers, and that is the dual timeline aspect of it. Now, I would read you the synopsis, but the synopsis on Goodreads doesn't do it justice at all. So, basically, what happens in this book is we're following an aunt and a niece, and we're following the aunt in the 80s, whenever she's 18, 19, and then we're following her niece in 2017 as she's trying to figure out what happened to her aunt at the Sundown Motel, because at the Sundown Motel, her aunt went missing. And no one's heard from her, no one knows anything that's happened, and so, yeah, we're getting to live what's happening in the present in the 80s as it unfolds and stuff, while also going back and forth into 2017 whenever her niece is figuring it out and unfolding the story for herself. So, yeah, I just love those types of things in the books, how they just play off each other so well to where the story unfolds, and as the story unfolds we get to see it play out, but we're also getting to see people figure it out as well. So yeah, I just love it. I love it. I will say I preferred the 1980s POV over the 2017 POV, but that's just because the ending and some of all the aspects I really didn't love about this book were in the 2017 POV. The ending kind of fell flat, but I don't think the ending really hindered from the book. Sometimes when I read a thriller, if the ending is just really bad, then I'm okay, this book doesn't, it has to be knocked off a star. But this wasn't bad, it just wasn't that exciting type of thing. It just kind of was oh, okay. But because the rest of the book was so good and I enjoyed it so much, I didn't really take off a star for it. I think the twists in especially the twists in the 80s POV were done really well, and I enjoyed them. And even if I saw some of them coming, I still liked how they happened and how they evolved. Yeah, it was so good. I think I'm gonna say that 20 times. I'm gonna try not to, but whenever I'm trying to talk about a 5-star book that I loved, I feel like my brain fizzles out to where it's doesn't know what to say, doesn't know how to compute something that I enjoy and liked without just repeating words over and over again. So, yeah. But I guess I should go ahead and get into the things that I didn't necessarily love about the book, and that was, like I said before, the ending fell flat. It just wasn't, it didn't make sense, really, for the bad guy or the villain in the 2017 POV. Their motivation and their reasoning behind what they were doing and what even they were trying to accomplish didn't make sense. Didn't make sense at all. I knew it was them. Like, I knew it was going to be them. I didn't know why or how. And then whenever it happened, it was just like, oh, we're just gonna stick with that? Okay. That's cool. It needed more explaining, in my opinion. They needed a better motivation for wanting to attack the main character, you know? I did like that their connection to the past, like how the main character had the connections to her aunt. I liked their connections to the past as well. And it made sense. It made sense in that aspect, but it just didn't make sense in why they wanted to murder her, essentially. And then the other thing I didn't love was the fact that there was like a romance. It wasn't really a romance. It was just like physical attraction between two people, which is fine, but it was just, you could tell that it was only there so that way he would help her out in solving what happened to her aunt. And nothing, like no reason else. And it just didn't make sense and fell flat for me because the fact that she had a friend that was filling the exact same role. The friend and the dude were filling the exact same role in the story, and they weren't even there at the same time. It was either the friend or the guy. And it was always one or the other. They were never like, it wasn't like a trio figuring this out. It was just one or the other. And I feel like I would have preferred it if it was just the friend and we had developed the friend more. But because it was like both of them, it just felt like you had one character ripped in half and kind of pretending to be two different characters, you know? It wasn't my favorite. I never understand why there always has to be a romance in every single book. If I want a romance, I'll read a romance book. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes I appreciate the romances in books like this, but this one just didn't work. And it just would have been better if it wasn't there at all. Now, some of the things that I did enjoy, other than like the 80s and all that stuff, I think the settings were really good in this book. Like the Sundown Motel was very atmospheric and very spooky, and you could tell some stuff's gone down there. Like, it's one of those places that, like, you just look at it and you know, this place has had some murders. It just has. It has to. And I liked the paranormal aspect of it. It wasn't like vampire werewolf type of paranormal, but there were ghosts, and you just saw them passing, and they were kind of reliving parts of their lives and stuff like that, and I liked that. There was one where it was just cigarette smoke all the time, and then you had one woman there, and then there was like a little boy, and as the story goes on, you figure out who those people are and like how they died and why they're stuck at the motel. And I loved how the hotel comes to life and just kind of wakes up at certain times, and it just, ooh, I got chills at times, and I was like, oh, this is getting kind of creepy. It was just very atmospheric, and I loved it. And also, the small town was really well written, and I really felt like we were in a small town where everyone knew each other, and no one leaves. And coming from a small town myself, like, it was pretty accurate. Okay, so I don't really know what else to say without me repeating myself. Because that's probably already happened. But yeah, and also I don't know what else to say without giving spoilers, because again, I just think you need to go into this book. Even going into this book with as much as I'm telling you, I feel like maybe too much. Because But that also just may be me. Like, I really enjoy going into books blind, like not even knowing what the synopsis is, just knowing the genre, the title, and the cover. Like, that's it. Like, that's my favorite way to go into a book. So I did like that, because when I went into this book, because the title Sundown Motel, I immediately thought of Bates Motel. And it's not like the Bates Motel, but it did have references to Norman Bates and the Bates Motel, which I appreciated and I thought were very clever and stuff like that. So even though they're not the same, like it's not like you have a guy running a hotel and killing people, like it's not that, but it still like has that same like eerie motel vibe and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just, it's such a good book. And I'm definitely going to be checking out more from this author because, yeah, the writing was just so well done and well executed, and just, can I say any more praises? I don't think so. So we're just going to end it here. If you've read this book and you want to talk spoilers, we can do so in the comments. Because, yeah, I just need to talk about this book. I'm trying to get my husband to read it so that way I can talk about it with him, but he hasn't yet, so I need someone to talk about it with. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I hope you have a great morning or evening whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!